Hey everyone, welcome to Hero Blend number 8. This week we're talking all about the new shortlist that just came out for both the Doctor Strange director and the Doctor Doom casting, so check it out. It is time for the latest episode of Hero Blend, and with me once again is entertainment editor Roth Cornet from IGN. How's it going?
Good, I'm glad to be here.
Absolutely. And so this week we're going to be talking about the recently released shortlists of what happened to be two Doctor characters. We didn't plan this out. This is how Hollywood happens to be working this week.
I felt like you did plan it out.
You know, I mean, I do have my fingers in some dikes, but that's not the point. Anyway, Doctor Strange, director, Doctor Doom, casting. These are the big stories this week. Let's break it down. Let's start with the Doctor Strange director, which is a race that seems to be down to 3 candidates right now. Right? Marvel may have other people in consideration, but these are what the trades are saying.
These are the 3 that we know about, and so they probably are the 3.
Exactly. And so, to break it down, let's start with Mark Andrews, who is the director of Brave, and definitely an interesting choice.
It's a really interesting choice because we were talking about this earlier. It's certainly not unheard of for the director of a large Pixar property to go on and direct a big live-action film. But Mark Andrews, and though he has directed plenty of more films besides Brave, but he went in halfway.
Yeah.
So he's not even the full director of that film. You know, he takes ultimate credit. He came in and sort of turned the ship around, but it's a very interesting choice. He's not my favorite of the 3.
At the same time, though, I will say Brave is a gorgeous movie. I mean, of course, a lot of that credit goes to the animation team at Pixar, who are just out of sight. And I think Brave is easily one of the most beautiful films that they've made. So I do have to give a lot of credit for him. And as you hinted at, Andrew Stanton didn't necessarily have the greatest time breaking in with John Carter, but Brad Bird, Mission Impossible Ghost Protocol, knocked out of the park. Let's go to the next one, which is Scott Derrickson, who is another interesting choice. This time, instead of animation, you're coming from horror, which isn't something we've really seen from Marvel so far.
Yeah, and it's funny because he directed actually a horror movie that I loved. He directed one that I loved and one that I liked.
Okay, well, which one?
So he directed Sinister, which I thought was not as scary as I had heard it would be, and I had some problems with. But he also directed The Exorcism of Emily Rose, which I loved, and I thought was absolutely terrifying. I think I'm a rare person that loves this film as much as I do, but it's almost like it's Baby's Bear's Bed is what we're looking for, and Mark Andrews is maybe a little bit too small, and Scott Derrickson's a little bit too big, too much horror, too light, and then we come to the perfect match.
Well, I get to talk about Scott Derrickson first.
I'm sorry.
This is my show. I get my time on camera.
No, it's what I say.
I will say I haven't seen Exorcism of Emily Rose, but I did see Sinister. I am with you in that I wasn't as amped on it, but I will say it is a really well-directed film. Like, I was impressed just by his use of negative space alone. Just create this incredible sense of tension and terror. And obviously,
dropping the film school bomb,
right? And obviously, Doctor Strange is a project that's going to be fantastical. It's going to deal with the supernatural, and you know, a horror edge might actually be there. Like, it might actually be a positive quality.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, the thing with my problems with Sinister were mostly script problems.
Sure.
So it was well directed.
Absolutely.
But we don't know what tone they're going for. But it's Marvel, and so my guess is that it's going to be, like most of their other films, a mixed tone, right?
A mixed tone, absolutely. Humor mixed in with the serious drama.
Yeah, so even if it's cartoon, it's a political thriller, it's still going to have humor in
absolutely. And so, you alluded to it earlier, but I think this is probably the director that we are probably the most in sync on, which is Jonathan Levine, whose track record, he'd started with All the Boys Love Mandy Lane. He kind of had his breakout with The Whackness, because All the Boys Love Mandy Lane was delayed 8 years from its festival debut. But his most famous titles, I think, are 50/50 and Warm Bodies, which to me are 2 films that are absolutely fantastic. I mean,
I love both of those films, and I think exactly like they both strike a delicate balance where 50/50 is a drama, there's a lot of heart to it, but it's really funny.
Oh, it's incredibly funny. You absolutely. And it doesn't hurt that you have Seth Rogen and Joseph Gordon-Levitt, who are both incredibly talented live actors. So I mean, obviously that's going to give you an edge. But also, I mean, Warm Bodies, another very funny, but also mixing in that kind of supernatural. I mean, he has that kind of experience.
And horror. I mean, there's really, there's tragically scary moments in Warm Bodies. I love that movie, actually.
Yeah, I love it
It's
too.
another one that I think is great. So he's my pick. I think that he can strike the best tone, find the right balance for this character, bring him to life. I don't know what his sort of comic background is. I don't know if he is a fan or not. That's usually important to Marvel.
Yeah, it's true. Though I will say one edge that he does have going for him, and that's something that Scott Derrickson has also, is that he's a writer-director, and Marvel has been kind of focusing more on directors who take control of that script as well, and so that could give him an edge. We'll see. But now let's move over to the Fox side of the comic book movie universe.
Well, let me ask you a question. Were you relieved that it was, because there was a rumor briefly that it was going to be a female?
You know,
Were you relieved that it's not?
I think that there has been endless amounts of controversy surrounding this project, from the fact that, like, from the rumor that there was going to be a female villain to the fact that all of the actors that they've cast to play the team are really young. I'm totally game for experimentation. I want to see them try something new. I want to see them try something different, because we've seen a version of Fantastic, what we would expect from a version of Fantastic Four before. It didn't really work out, so let's try something different. I don't think there's a point of rebooting the franchise unless we're doing that. But obviously, well, I shouldn't say obviously, it seems that that female thing is not going to pan out, but we do have 4 candidates who are apparently in the running. Again, starting from the top, we have Sam Riley. Thoughts?
Your thoughts?
My thoughts. I will say,
interrupted you before to clear down.
Okay, I'll hit first. I will say I haven't seen Control, which I know was kind of his big breakout movie, playing the lead singer of Joy Division. But I did see On the Road, and while I didn't really love On the Road as a movie, I thought his performance was fine as Kerouac. I thought he embodied the character. That movie, its flaws were about were definitely more in the directing script angles of it, but
he's actually my pick.
Okay.
Yeah, he's my pick. You guys should go check out, even if it's not the whole. I think you can see Control on Vimeo at this point.
Really?
Hopefully legally. Or you should see it in some other legal way.
Some legal way. Amazon is always available.
You should kind of check this guy out. I think there's something about him that says tormented to me, which I think is a quality. He's
certainly
also
for
really,
Dr. Doom. Absolutely.
Yeah. So he's also really young, but they all are. You know, so it's going to be a young character no matter what. He makes very odd but very interesting choices in the films that he does. I think that he just could embody the essence of the character the best of who we've seen. Though they're all really good actors.
This is true, and from that, let's go on to the next one, which is Eddie Redmayne, who, again, he's not the biggest name in the world. None of these names are A-listers, but he did have a considerable part in Les Mis, and I thought he did a great job with it.
And he was the lead, basically the lead in My Week with Marilyn.
That's true.
It was his week with Marilyn.
It's his week with Marilyn.
And he's a really good actor. Here's the only question I have about him. He kind of looks like Jamie Bell.
He does, albeit Jamie Bell is going to be covered in a rock suit or CGI or whatever it's going to be.
That's true. But
honestly, I think the larger point of that, in terms of his appearance, is that when you look at Eddie Redmayne, do you think villain?
I don't.
And Dr. Doom is I mean, I'm not going to deny the guy's range. I'd love to see him, like, experiment with that kind of thing. But just looking at him, he's not necessarily the guy I turn to when I'm thinking villain.
Yeah, neither do I. And also, I mean, is he going to... Anyway, well, we don't know what the origin story... I don't know how...
Yeah, it's true. I mean, it could all definitely change, absolutely. Yeah. So, but the next one is, and kind of the opposite angle, actually, from not looking like a villain, is the next one, which is Toby Kebbell, who has a lot of blockbuster experience from, like, he's been all over the place. He's going to be soon sitting in the Dawn of the Planet of the Apes.
He's always on the short list.
He's always a guy that's there, and if he's not playing the lead, then he is somewhere in the supporting cast. He's weirdly also co-starred in Control with Sam Riley, but he is a guy who I could see kind of having that villainous edge. My biggest exposure to him is Guy Ritchie's Rock'n'Rolla, which is kind of a fucked up character.
He had the best scene in Warhorse.
Okay.
Now, Warhorse wasn't a movie that I totally loved, but the best scene I thought was in No Man's Land, and that was Toby Kebbell's scene, and he knocked it out of the park, you know? He's a really good actor. He's that guy that, like, I feel like he's right on the bubble, like right on the edge of hitting it really big in something.
Almost perpetually,
but yeah. I wouldn't be surprised if it was this, you know?
This could be it.
again, I don't know why. I'm calling Sam Riley.
Okay. Well, we still have Domhnall Gleeson to discuss, who is, again, a very talented guy. This is a guy who was got rave reviews for his performance in About Time last year. He got great notes for his performance in Anna Karenina.
He was a Weasley.
And he was a Weasley in the last 2 Harry Potter movies. And also, let's also not forget that he's blood with Brendan Gleeson, who is awesome perpetually in everything. So he obviously has the blood. Again, he may have that Eddie Redmayne problem where he doesn't necessarily look like he could play a villain.
It's an interesting choice to have someone that inherently looks like a nice guy play the villain. So, but I don't see that for Dr. Doom necessarily. I see a guy that looks and seems and feels tormented, egotistical, full of malice that he can't hold in.
I mean, maybe all it takes is putting on a mask for these guys.
But quite suave, Well, I don't think that do you think he can be in the mask the whole time?
I think that they are going to take him out of the mask, but I think that they're not. I mean, they have to have the mask. That's the iconic look for the character. I think that's what they got to do.
At some point, yeah. But I mean, I don't think that this movie is really my sense, and you can look on IGN. My sense about the movie there is that it will not be have the costumes initially.
Okay.
Like I feel like he's gonna find any way he can to ground this, to distinguish the tone as much as possible from maybe some of the other I could be wrong.
Okay.
From some of the other superhero movies. So it'll happen eventually, but I think it will be a slow progression to the mask.
So let's talk closing thoughts. Doctor Strange director, you're calling it for Jonathan Levine? Yeah. We're not calling it, obviously. We're not the people making this decision. No, but who do we want to see? I think we both agree it's Jonathan Levine.
Yeah.
Both on that one. And
I'm going on the record saying that's who's going to get hired.
Okay. I'd personally love to see it. And you're calling Sam Riley for Fantastic Four?
Sam Riley, who is the least known.
Yeah, and I think of this 4, I'm either leading towards Domhnall Gleeson or Toby Kebbell, one of the two. I think they have a lot to show, and I think that they could both do really interesting things with that role. Roth, thank you so much for coming being on the show with me this week.
Absolutely. Thank you.